Okay chaps, welcome to this week's Friday Waffle. I've really been looking forward to making this waffle. Not because I've been looking forward to making it, I've just been looking forward to getting to Friday. It's been a bit of a sod at work, I don't mind admitting. It's been a long week, so I'm delighted it's the weekend, thankfully. Oh dearie me. I went out for a run there. I mean, my kind of cold is almost all but away. I went out for a short run there just now, and I can already feel it kind of annoying me, bit of horrible cough. But anyway, enough of my complaints. I hope you've had a decent week. What have I been doing with myself? Yeah, now you probably, if you watch the Friday Waffle, you'll probably notice, in fact, you know what, I tend to edit the video now so you don't get to see my wife's dressing gown hanging up the door, but you'll probably notice my guitar, which generally does not move from that corner. I bought the guitar, when did I buy it? I bought it about 6 months ago, and I mean, I've got a mate he's in a band. He's an absolutely amazing guitarist. Now, he came with me to buy the guitar and the amp, etc. And he gave me a few kind of lessons, and what he said to me was, you know, anytime you want to come through, we can, you know, I'll teach you kind of thing. But it's one of these things, you know, I think if you're going to get lessons in anything, it needs to be regular. And I didn't want to be saying to the guy, look, I'm going to come through every Monday or whatever it is. So I've actually joined a guitar class. It's not so much a class as such, it's basically you go along and the guy teaches you a few chords, and then you sort of play along with records or play along with songs, and it's meant to be quite a good way to actually learn it. So I went along, what day was it? Wednesday. I went along on Wednesday, and I must admit, when I walked in, there was all these other people there, and they were all tuning the guitars, and I've not even got, I mean, it's an acoustic guitar you're supposed to use. Now, I don't have an acoustic guitar. Excuse me. I've only got my electric one, so I had to borrow one. So I turned up there with the plectrum, and that was it. And everybody else turned up, and they started tuning the guitars. And you know what? I was like, I feel completely and utterly out of my depth. I was sorely tempted just to get up and walk out. You know, I really felt like they are way in front of me, and I'm a complete novice. But as it turns out, there was another 2 guys who are complete novices as well. Excuse me. So it's good fun, actually. Really enjoyed it. So I'm going to try and get a wee bit of practice in probably tomorrow. Anything else games wise? No, I was up my guitar classes on Wednesday. I don't know how I find the time to do all this. I really don't. Guitar classes on Wednesday. I've not played any video games at all this week. No, I haven't. Not played anything at all. Now, I've got to say, excuse me, I have got a massive list of questions. I may not actually get through them all. Absolutely brilliant to get all these questions, but I don't want to. I want to give the questions the sort of the time they deserve. I don't want just to rush through them just to get through them. You know, hopefully any of the questions that I don't answer this week, people aren't too disappointed. I says I will just carry them forward to next week. The only one thing which I have got here, which I heard in the news, I saw it online, is the Oculus Rift. I'll just read it out. Apparently, Oculus Rift, who's owned by Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, they bought Oculus Rift a couple of years ago, I think. Oculus Rift have been sued by ZeniMax for 500 million. Yep, 500 million. As they claim that John Carmack and Oculus founder Palmer Luckey, he's not really, stole intellectual property to start the work on the Oculus Rift VR headset. Could this be the end of Oculus Rift? Some people seem to think so. I mean, 500 million would probably absolutely crucify most companies. Obviously Facebook, I don't know, you know, worth a few quid. But you know, that's is it $500 million? $500 million, I think it is. Some people seem to think that Oculus Rift is dead in the water or it's dying. Now, I don't have, I've got my VR gear thing, Samsung Gear. I don't really know too much about Oculus Rift. What I'm hearing is the PC side of things, generally the Vive seems to be the most popular option. Again, I don't know, I don't have any of these ones, so I can't really comment. Obviously for fully fledged games, it seems that the PlayStation VR seems to be the sort of favoured choice as well. That's the sort of choice of the masses. Well, you know, the masses that have got plenty of money to be able to buy one. And, you know, is Oculus Rift done and dusted? I don't know. I mean, I think it's one of these things. It kind of reminds me a wee bit like the videotape wars of the 80s. Now, if you're not old enough, excuse me, this is really annoying, this cough. If you're not old enough to know about the, what do you call it, videotapes where there were a tape that you put into a video recorder. Back in the 80s, excuse me, I think it was Betamax. Was that the original? I think it might have been. Betamax was one format of videotape. It actually used smaller tapes, and apparently it was a better system. Then VHS came along, and every single company got on board with VHS, and it was basically like comparing VHS was the PlayStation, Betamax was the Saturn, the Sega Saturn, you know. Betamax came along first, but then VHS came along after it and was just way more way more popular, and so the you know, the Betamax was eventually phased out. It's a bit like, actually, I'm looking at it there, the Xbox 360, they brought out HD. I'm not going to dig one out. Basically, it's like Blu-ray, but it's a smaller disc. And yeah, HD came out first. Then Blu-ray came along and became the more popular sort of format of this type. And so eventually, I think HD was made by Toshiba, and then very shortly Toshiba decided, right, we've had enough, we know we're beat, so they pulled the rug on HD. And HD is actually really good, but you know, it was it died a death basically. And I'm kind of thinking that Oculus Rift could be going the same way as the Betamax videotape, which would be unfortunate. But I think sometimes, although it's good to have sort of competition in anything, you know, because it keeps the market fresh. Something like VR, it's such a lot of money to shell out on something that could possibly maybe not be here in a year's time. I mean, I know if I had just bought an Oculus Rift and I was hearing about, you know, this, I would be a wee bit worried. I'd be a wee bit possibly pissed off. How much truth there is in this, I don't know. I don't know, but yeah, I think if there's too many, you know, sort of types of technology, it can be detrimental, because it means that none of them really take off. Whereas at least if you have one popular one and all the companies sort of back it, then it may turn into be a good thing. So I don't know. Possibly my mate Ian Bangkokian, he may know a bit more about it. Interestingly, I actually found out that my PC is powerful enough to run an Oculus Rift, but I'm certainly not going to go and buy it now. Not if not if it's going to be getting phased out. But would I buy one anyway? I don't know. Maybe if I was getting it for not very much money, I might think about it, but I don't know. So anyway, listen, that's the only thing, sort of subject I've got. I mean, I've got tons of questions here. So listen, I'm just gonna batter right on, and we'll see how we got on with time. First one, Kev Robbins 61. I was wondering if you had seen anything about the Spectrum Next. It looks great. Will it happen? Is it needed? What do you think? The Spectrum Next is it's based on the Spectrum, but it's like a turbocharged Spectrum. I think it does HDMI. It does sprites. You can save to like an SD card. It's just like everything you would want a Spectrum to be. I think it runs quicker than a normal Spectrum. It's got way more memory. It's like everything is better. It's got a really nice keyboard. Now, Jim Bagley, I know Jim has had one for a wee while and he loves it. He thinks it's absolutely fantastic. He's got a kind of beta. But it's one of these Kickstarter things, and I don't know to be honest, I don't know what the position is regards actually putting it out, for people to get. But it does look really nice. I mean, Kevin's asking here, is it needed? Will it happen? Well, it says I'm not too sure on that. Is it needed? I don't know. I'm a bit old fashioned when it comes to stuff like this. I mean, I've got all my most of my computers have got SD cards in them now. So like my BBC, my Atari, my C64, my Spectrum. What else? Yeah, all my sort of computers, my Amiga, they've all got SD cards or some sort of kind of media that I can just play a game. It takes seconds to load a game. Now that is fantastic, because as much as I love original hardware, what I don't miss is sitting loading a tape for 10 minutes and then it crashes. That's a lot of bollocks. Why would anybody want to experience that? I could just switch my Spectrum on, press the button, go down the menu, pick the game, hit return, and it's instantly loaded. Now, I like that because I'm still playing the Spectrum. It's still the original hardware that I'm using. The games that I'm running are the games that you'd have played back in the 1980s. Stuff like the Spectrum, what's it called? Just Spectrum Next. I understand why people love these things, because they're basically supercharging original hardware. But to me, I think to myself, at what point does a supercharged Spectrum no longer actually be a Spectrum? It's just, to me, it's almost just like another computer. I mean, I'm imagining that this Spectrum Next is going to be 100% compatible with games. So I suppose technically, in its heart, it is still a Spectrum. But you know what I mean? Could you call it a Spectrum if it's got more memory, it's got better sound, it's got better graphics? Is it not just a Spectrum in name only? I don't know. If you go too far the one way, then you end up losing the essence of the machine that you're trying to copy. But I'm sure it'll be absolutely amazing. I mean, I've seen a few demos that sort of Jim Bagley's put together, and it does look really nice. The actual machine itself looks really, really nice. I don't know how much they're to buy on the Kickstarter thing, but watch this space. I mean, it's one of these things, depending on how it goes, it might be something I pick up. The thing is, I've got a recreated Spectrum, which is in the sort of 48K thing. But again, it was a completely new board. A guy put together. Is it Just Specky, I think it's called, and it's got like VGA out, and it's got better sound. Well, it's not got better sound, but it outputs the sound through the TV. It's a 128K sort of thing. So that's kind of what I'm talking about, but it's still an original Spectrum at heart. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Part 2 of Kev's questions. One more thing, I recently got my original Xbox from the attic because you were talking about yours the other week. So I turned it on and the disc tray opened. I tried to load a game, but it kept ejecting. The only way I could load the game was to hold the disc tray shut. Have you encountered anything like this or heard of this type of problem before? Any tips? Well, Kev, I have got exactly the same problem. It's been doing that. My Xbox is there. It's been doing that. I don't know, maybe the last 3-4 years. I don't know what the issue is, but basically what I do is I just keep pressing the button and it eventually does close. But yeah, I've got exactly the same problem. You put a disc in, you close it, it closes, and then it just opens up again. But I find if you just keep pressing the fire button, maybe 3 or 4 times, it will eventually close. I dare say it's obviously just an issue with the actual the door itself, sort of thing. But yeah, got exactly the same problem, mate. But I said if you just keep trying to close it, it does eventually close. So right, Mr. Country Roadist, he's been a wee absent for a wee bit, but I'm glad to see him back again. Who really won the 16-bit war? Was it regarded as the king of that era? So what is regarded as the king of that era? The SNES or the Mega Drive or the Amiga? Bloody hell. That's a good question. I'm gonna go for the Amiga. I mean, I think there's the people that bought, but I mean back then, unless you were seriously loaded, you didn't really know anybody that had 2 systems. You either had not a Spectrum, you either had a SNES or a Mega Drive or an Amiga. I mean, there's probably very few people could afford to have more than one. Maybe some people might have had a Mega Drive and a SNES, but I tend to think that the people that played the Amiga weren't interested in the consoles. I know I was one of them. I mean, I had an Amiga for a long time, and I wasn't too fussed. I mean, don't get me wrong, I would love to have had a Mega Drive, but I couldn't afford it. It was a lot of money, so you had to make your choice. So I had the Commodore Amiga. The great thing about that, obviously, was the fact that the games were a lot cheaper, especially if you could pirate them. You know what I mean? So yeah, but I think as far as popularity go, if people were to think, oh, you know what, it's a really difficult question. I mean, I was watching a film last night. Is it Viva Amiga? And it's all about documenting the guys that actually made the Amiga, talking to the guys who developed it. It was basically a labour of love. These guys designed this computer, and what comes over is the passion, the love for the Amiga. Even now, people still love the Amiga. I mean, I've got a mate. I mean, Adam. He actually only maybe in the last few years got a PC. He was using his Amiga right through, up to maybe 2-3 years ago. So there are people out there who still use their Amiga as their main computer. You can go online with it now, sort of thing. But I don't know. I think if you're to look at numbers, I mean, I can only talk from the UK. I think if you're to look at numbers sold, I think there was a lot more Amigas sold than the Mega Drive and certainly the SNES. I think the Mega Drive was the more popular computer out of the Mega Drive was the more popular console out of the SNES or Mega Drive, but I think there were more Amiga owners. Who won the war? It's difficult to say. I think I would go for the Amiga just because I think it had the bigger popularity, and there are probably more games that people look back on with affection than the Mega Drive. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of fantastic games for the Mega Drive, but you talk about the Commodore Amiga and it's thousands of, well, not thousands, but there's just so many games. That's what people said when you bought an Amiga. You didn't just buy the computer; you're buying into a whole community. And I said that to my mate last night. I says if I was to be asked what is your favourite computer, it would have to be the Amiga. I mean, yeah, the nostalgia side of things for me was the Commodore 64, but there's not many games in the C64 that I would want to play now. But the Commodore Amiga, even now, is a fantastic computer. It had, the graphics for the time. I mean, it did multitasking. The graphics, it did, rendering for films and that kind of stuff. I mean, some of the sort of 3D renders for what was the Star Trek the next generation, something like that. Babylon, whatever it's called, Babylon 7? I don't know. They used the Amiga. The sound is incredible, the sound chips in the Amiga. So it was an incredible machine, and it is even now an incredible machine. Yep, we take for granted with PCs, you've got 16 gig of memory, and you know, it can play digitized sound and that perfectly now. But the Amiga was a game changer. It changed everything that you'd seen before. So from a personal point of view, I would absolutely say the Amiga was the 16-bit king. It won the wars. But yeah, great questions. Right, part 2 of Mr. Country Roadist. Is the Nintendo Switch going to redefine gaming in 2017, or is it just going to be another gimmick and basically shite? I hope not, because I'm buying one. Is it going to redefine gaming? I don't know. It depends. I was going to say absolutely not. It's not going to redefine gaming, because we've had the ability to play... I mean, like not the PSP, the PS Vita. Some of the games on the PS Vita are almost like fully fledged kind of console games. I mean, you had like Uncharted and that kind of stuff, I think, on it. But I suppose again, there were always cut down versions of, you know, the big living room TV games. Whereas the Switch is going to allow you to play the game that you play on your 50-inch LCD is the same game you can play in your handheld. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I don't think it's going to be a gimmick. I think it's got its place. The thing that's slightly concerning, and I have mentioned this before, is the fact that Nintendo, for whatever reason, they always insist on bringing out, you know, they bring out like novel hardware with the Wii and, you know, the Wii U with the big tablet and that kind of thing. But they always bring out hardware that's underpowered compared to what's out there. You know, the Nintendo Switch isn't going to be as powerful as the PlayStation 4 or the Xbox One. And they've been out for like 3 years now. You know, I just don't understand that at all. But it's going to be interesting. I mean, I think people of a certain age who love to play, you know, their games on the big screen, they may think this is wonderful that they can play the very same game on, you know, a handheld. I mean, the thing for me about a handheld is, you know, I mean, I like to play little snippety games, little arcade games or that, rather than you know, if I want to play Uncharted, I would much rather play it on a big TV rather than on a handheld. But I suppose if I'm playing Uncharted on the toilet for 10 minutes and I know that I can save it and then continue on the big TV, then I may well play it. But it'll be interesting to see. Because I'm hoping to get one. I don't think it's going to redefine gaming, but you know what? You really don't know. I think a lot of it's going to be down to the games. Now, sadly, the games that they're touting at the moment are basically, it's the same old Nintendo games. You know, your Mario games, your probably your Kirby, your Zelda, no doubt your Donkey Kong and whatever. I mean, the other game that they've been talking about, and it was on the advert, is Skyrim. Now, Skyrim is about 5-6 years old. It's an old game. It's not exactly cutting edge. So I think, you know, if the system's underpowered and it's only going to get older games, then it's always going to be in third place. It's never going to become the best-selling console. So will it redefine gaming in 2017? I don't think it will. I think if the hardware was, you know, either the same or more powerful than what we've got at the moment, then possibly. But I think because the hardware is underpowered compared to what we've got, I just don't see it happening. But anyway, who knows? You can never You can never ever tell how things are going to pan out. Number 3. Right, okay, I can't even answer this. Irvin Welsh and Piers Morgan had a Twitter battle this week. Discuss. Now, I do apologise. I says I never actually read questions that I've got for the Friday Waffle. I like to just fire straight in there and give you my opinions straight off the bat. I don't actually know anything about what you're talking about here, Irvin Welsh and Piers Morgan. I'm assuming it's to do with train spotting. Did Piers Morgan have a go at the Scottish? I don't really know. I can't answer that one. I'm going to have to move on because I'm not aware of that. Number 4, when is it okay to pirate games and when isn't it? I would say that's fairly simple. It depends what you mean by pirate, I suppose. I mean, I'm assuming you're talking pirate, i.e. copying a game. If you own a game, the times where I would say it's absolutely fine to pirate a game, if you own a game but you didn't want to risk getting the disc damaged, scratched, whatever, or even if you lost the game, if you bought a game and then you lost the disc, I would say, yeah, if you can pirate it, then go for it, because you have bought it. You know, you have bought it, so I don't see an issue with that. The other times where I would say pirating is fine. I mean, pirating, I'm sure by its definition, is copying a game, an unauthorized copy of a game. Where a game may still, intellectually belong to a company. Say, for example, Super Mario Land for the SNES. Yeah, that still does belong to Nintendo. I personally don't see it being an issue downloading a ROM, because that ROM is not commercially available. Yeah, you might be able to download it or buy it for like the Wii U and the Play Store, whatever it is type thing. But Nintendo are not making any money off Super Nintendo Mario Land, or whatever it's called, Super Mario Land. So I don't see that being an issue. If a system is no longer commercially available, then I don't personally have an issue with that at all. I mean, I've admitted I've done my fair share of copying games. I've bought loads of pirate games and that kind of stuff. It's not something that I do now. Yeah, I download ROMs and what have you, but nowadays, now that I've got a wee bit more money to buy games, and games now, compared to even in the 20, 30 years ago, games now are so cheap. Yeah, if you want to buy a brand new game, then you're going to pay 40 quid for it. But if you're prepared to wait, a few months, you will get the game a lot cheaper, especially with the what do you call it? Especially with like the second-hand market. What was interesting, I was watching, I can't even remember who it was, a YouTube video, and is it GameStop in the States? There's and Game in the UK are just the same. Apparently, in GameStop, they were selling a game brand new, and the employees were actually told to remove. They were selling the game brand new for, say, I don't know, $60, and they also had second-hand copies for $55, $5 cheaper. Now that's the same in the UK. You get that. You get a game brand new for 40 quid, or you get it second-hand for 36, and it's a no-brainer. I'm thinking, well, I'll just go for the brand new one. But in this GameStop, apparently the employees were told to physically remove the brand new copies from the shelves and put it in the back, so that people had to buy the second hand one. Now the reason being is when a company, and again this is what I've read, apparently when a game company sell a game, say for $60, they only get something like 10% profit margin on that. Most of the money goes to the developer and the publishers. They get very, very small sort of percentage. But a second-hand game, you go into the shop and buy this brand new game for $60. You take it away, You finish with the game, you take it back to them, you trade it in, they'll give you $15 for it. They then put it back out on the shelf for $55. So they are then making, like, you know, they've given you 15, they're selling for 55. They're basically making, say, $40 profit. All that profit goes to the shop. The programmers don't get anything, the developers don't get anything. So that is why all these companies, they love the second-hand market, because they make way more money selling second-hand copies of games. Now, I don't have an issue with that if the game is cheaper, but in many cases, the second-hand value is literally a couple of pounds less than the brand new one. And you know, I just think they're taking the piss. You know, as like I said, they'll give you a fraction. If you take that game in, they'll give you a tiny pittance of money, and then they'll try and sell them back. I mean, I always remember, slightly different story, I always remember taking back, it was something outrageous, like 60 PlayStation 2 games I took back to Game Station, who were later bought over by Game, and they don't exist anymore. And I was offered £12 for 60 games. £12. So that wasn't even, I was getting something like, what would that be? I was getting something like 20 pence a game. A game that, you know, I did personally, I was actually selling them on behalf of somebody. Games that would have cost you 30, 40 quid a pop. So you're talking about probably £2,000 worth of games, and they're going to give you 12 quid. But yeah, I just think it's wrong. I'm all for the second-hand market, but not when these big companies are going to try and rip people off, you know. Yeah, and obviously the flip side to, you were asking about piracy, when's it okay to pirate games? I would say it's okay to pirate games when they're no longer commercially available. When there's no companies can make money out of them, I personally don't really think there's a big issue with it. I know, like Nintendo, in fact, I mean, if you go into like World of Spectrum, you can download 99% of the games, but there's some games, is it Codemasters, I think it is, Codemasters and Ultimate, or Rare as they're called, they don't allow their Spectrum games to be downloaded, because what they're saying is it's their intellectual property, which they're absolutely bang on about. But I think they see that they can possibly maybe make a remake, or I mean, they brought out that Rare Replay thing for the Xbox One, so they were packaging these games up to sell again. But yeah, obviously if a game is still available in the shops, whatever, then piracy is wrong. You know, I think that's a no-brainer. But anyway, listen, thanks for the question. Right, Mr. Jamie Williamson. I'm sure we all remember the time when arcade quality graphics was an unattainable goal of game developers, and arcade conversions nearly always fell short of the originals. But can you think of any conversions that you actually prefer to the arcade ones, i.e. more playable, better graphics? One example I can think of is Amiga Pac-Mania, which is both prettier and more playable than the arcade version. Back in the day, Jamie, I didn't have any exposure to the arcades. You know, that my arcade experience didn't really go beyond the chip shop, the local sports centre, or the very occasional stopover in a service station on the M6 when we're going on holiday. So I didn't have anything to compare it with. Obviously now, I mean, we didn't have MAME back in the 80s. Can you imagine how good having MAME back then would have been? That would have been incredible. So it's only now that I'm able to look at an arcade version and then look at a home version. What versions were better? I don't know. I mean, there's some absolutely fantastic conversions of games, but are they better than the arcade? I'm struggling to think of any. I mean, some people, there's a train of thought by Commodore 64 owners that Buggy Boy on the C64 is better than the arcade. I don't know if I'd go that far. I mean, you know, graphically wise, it's not a patch in the arcade. But what they did very cleverly with the Buggy Boy is they took the essence of the game, what makes the game fun, you know, driving the buggy and whatever it was. And they just, rather than trying to compete and try and shoehorn an arcade into a Commodore 64, they took away what they wanted to achieve and they just came up with their own Buggy Boy. And what they produced is a fantastic game. It's uber playable. It's really, really nice. It's possibly more playable in arcades. That's one example. I mean, Rodland on the Commodore Amiga is just a absolutely fantastic. Hey, Archie, absolutely fantastic game. But I can't think of any game where it was improved. I mean, I'm aware of Pac-Mania. Pac-Mania looked really nice on the Amiga. Again, that was my first experience of the game, was playing it on the Commodore Amiga. Then it was years later I played it on in MAME. I couldn't see whether MAME or the Amiga one was better, to be honest with you. They look very, very similar, but I can't think of any. I said, apart from Buggy Boy, Jamie, there probably are some games. I think sometimes the thing about, I've always maintained with arcade games, is I don't think that they always make a good game to play in a home system, because what you need to, the fundamental thing you need to understand about arcade games is they are designed to make money, and making money means you die quick, you lose your lives quickly, you put more money in. So generally they're made very difficult. They reckon that the average player lasts about 20 seconds when they first play an arcade game. That's the expected time you're going to last in a game. So games are not designed to be uber playable. They're designed to be like eye candy, you know, oh my god, I want to play that. So sometimes when you get a home version, it's more fun. I mean, some arcade games, they're not fun to play at all because they're designed to make money. But yeah. Anyway, right, part 2 of Jamie's on a C64 ST Amiga Boy. Sorry, as a C64 ST Amiga Boy, what arcade conversions on other systems, 8-bit computer, 16-bit consoles, made you think, you lucky, lucky bastards, and why? John Madden's football, I had that on the Commodore Amiga, and it just wasn't as good as the Mega Drive. I was always envious of the Mega Drive because, you know, it had the 3 buttons. I think you had the replay and that kind of stuff. It just felt better. Street Fighter 2 on the Amiga is alright. On the SNES, it was incredible. Absolutely amazing game. I mean, to be honest, because I own the Spectrum, the C64 now, I can compare games and say, well, you know what? In retrospect, I realise that the Spectrum Chase HQ was the better game. There are definitely Spectrum conversions which I would say are way better than the C64, but back in the day, I never really rated the Spectrum at all, so I didn't really have that jealousy. There were games, don't get me wrong, on the Spectrum like Night Lore and, you know, Batman and Ant Attack. There were some games that simply didn't exist on the C64, and I used to sort of be like, come on Archie, get down. I was jealous, you know, that I couldn't play them on my Commodore 64. But as far as C64 conversions being better than the Spectrum, I can't think of many. I think Elite was maybe better on the Spectrum, but yeah, I said it was probably really more the Amiga games. There were some Amiga games that they were just better in the consoles. But then there was, on the flip side, there was a lot of, you know, games on the Amiga that just didn't do it. Like Sensible Soccer, it's easily better. It was designed for the Amiga, and as far as I'm concerned, that is a platform you need to play it on. So anyway, listen, thanks for that. That's excellent. Right, listen, I'm going to do one more batch of questions, guys, because I've got another 3 batches after this, and I think that's enough for 1 week. It means I've got plenty of stuff to do next week. So the final batch is Mark the Morose. If someone asked you what was a good system to buy to get into retro gaming, what would you recommend? A PC or another modern system with lots of good emulators, or a real and readily available retro system with lots of good games. Somebody's wanting to get into retro gaming. I would ask them what kind of games they want to play. If they say they want to play Spectrum games, then I would recommend they go and get a Spectrum, get one of the VSD card things. If they just wanted to generally get into retro games, what I would probably suggest they do is get a PC, a decent PC or a Mac, and just get a hold of some emulators, download some ROMs, which are easy to find, and then that way you've got access to all these systems, and you can see what ones you're going to want to play. I mean, there's no question that a PC, actually get down, I've got a dog that wants clapped constantly. A PC is the ultimate emulation station. I mean, it does everything, absolutely everything, from the Saturn to the GameCube to arcades to Spectrums, you name it, there's an emulator. Even the Sharp X68000 has got an emulator. So the PC, I would say, would be the first port of call. Try out the different systems, see what kind of games you like, then you can decide to, I'm going to pick up a Mega Drive, I'm going to pick up a SNES, a Commodore Amiga. I think that would be the best thing to do. As far as if somebody says to me, what is the sort of the easiest to use, cheapest way to emulate, I would say the Xbox. If you can get a hold of an original Xbox and get it chipped, I think you can get it soft modded, then it's got a plethora of emulators. I have done a video of it actually. In fact, I'll try and put a link to it up above. I think I did do a video. If the link's not up there, then it means I didn't do it. Yeah, the Xbox is fantastic at emulating. It does the Amiga, the Atari ST, all the different consoles, the computers. Pound for pound, it's just brilliant. Being able to switch it on, joystick, gamepad, pick what you want. You can play all your games on your big massive TV. It does MAME, it does all arcades, Final Burn, all these kind of things. The Xbox is a fantastic sort of emulation station. But like I said, you want to do it in the cheap, then go for the PC and download some emulators, see what you think, and then if you really decide, you think I'd really like to play the original hardware, then you could then decide to buy that. So hopefully that'll answer your question. So anyway, listen guys, like I said, I've got another 3 batches here, but I think the waffle's kind of going on long enough. So thank you very much to the questions. Before I finish off, I've just got a quick little sort of shout out. My good mate Dave, Infected Flinch. Alright! And that's, I've got to go and pick up my daughter now, so I need to cut it short. My mate Infected Flinch, he is actually in the process of writing a game called Monitor. It's a dark kind of horror type game. Now Dave's asked me to do some beta testing in it. I will put a link to it down below, so go and check it out. It's still in beta format, but it will be getting released very, very soon. So go and check it out. So anyway, listen guys, that is it. I'm going to wrap it up now. Thank you very much to all your continued support and your questions. Keep them coming guys. I hope you enjoyed watching it. And finally, thank you very much for watching.